Hello, boys and girls. This is Mrs. Wingervasio, and today we're going to be covering Chapter 3, Lesson 3.4, Solving Equations Using Multiplication or Division. We've already covered addition and subtraction, so now we're going to go ahead and solve them using multiplication or division. Reference pages to this could be found in your Google Classroom titled 3.4, pages 104 and 105. Let's go ahead and start with some review. So yesterday we talked about inverse operation and what it was. Basically, it's the opposite operation. So if you see multiplication, you would do division. If you see division, you're going to do multiplication. And the idea of today's lesson is to solve equations by isolating the variable by itself. So let's take a look at our first example. It says example 1, solving equations by multiplying or dividing. Again, when we're solving an equation, we have to isolate and get the variable by itself. So as you see right here, letter A, example A, it says x over 3 equals negative 6. So what I usually ask myself is, how will I get the x by itself? What's happening to the x? Well, x is being divided by 3. If it's being divided by 3, I have to do the opposite inverse operation to get rid of that 3. So opposite of divide would be multiply. So let me just go ahead and rewrite this problem for you so you can see. So x over 3 equals negative 6. So again, opposite of divide would be multiply. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply this side by 3 to get x by itself. If I do it to this side, train tracks, I'm going to do it to the other side. So what happens to this side? This cancels out. So now x is by itself. So negative 6 times 3 will be a negative 18. So this would be your answer. Now, if you want to see if your answer is correct, you can always use the check method. So I'm going to go ahead and check to see if this solution is correct. I'm going to rewrite my problem. X over 3 equals 6, or negative 6, I'm sorry. And it says x is negative 18. So x is negative 18. And then I'm going to plug that in for x equals negative 6. And we talked about equivalent equations before. Now, if the equation is equivalent, we know that the solution is correct. So let's see. If I have a negative 6 on this side, I should have a negative 6 on this side. Do I have a negative 6? Well, a negative 18 divided by 3 is a negative 6. So this solution is correct. Check. Okay, let's go ahead and try our next example. In our next example, we have 18 equals negative 4 times, or negative 4y. Again, I ask myself, how do I get the variable by itself? I see the variable y. So to get it by itself, I have to ask myself another question. What's happening to the y? Well, it looks like it's being multiplied by a negative 4. Every time you have a number and a variable next to each other, that means multiply. So it's being multiplied. So opposite of multiply is, you guessed it, divide. So if you divide to this side, remember equations, what you do to one side, you have to do to the other side of the equation. So now this side cancels. And then now you have y is by itself. Let me go back to this. The reason why this cancels is because what's a negative 4 divided by negative 4? Just a 1. Do you need the 1y there? No. So we have here just y equals. And then now, since we're dividing 18 divided by negative 4, what's 18 divided by negative 4? Now, you may end up with a decimal, so that's okay if you end up with a decimal. Now, so you're just going to go ahead and solve the 18 divided by 4, and then once you get that, you will get negative 4.5. So now again, you can use the check method right here. I'm going to go ahead and check it right here on the right side. So it says here 18 equals negative 4 times y. So what is y? Y was negative 4.5. And then we're going to times that by negative 4. Does negative 4 times negative 4.5 equal 18? Yes, it does. So then if you want to check on the side, you may too. But a negative times a negative is a positive, and that happens to be exactly 18. So that would be your answer. So if it checks, your solution here is correct. So let me go ahead and highlight all the answers here in our example. This would be our answer, and this would be our answer. Again, we're just trying to isolate the variable by doing the opposite inverse operation. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and have you try on your own on a separate sheet of paper for your homework tonight. You have the first 3 problems here. So go ahead and pause the video, solve the problems, and write down your answer. Okay, example 2, solving an equation. Now this time we're going to go ahead and solve the equations using a reciprocal. As a reminder, a reciprocal is when you flip the fraction, reversing it. So if you have, example right here, you have a negative 4 over 5, it's going to end up being 5 over, let me go ahead and put it right here. Reciprocal is going to be 5 over 4. Now, did it have a sign in front of it? Yes, so you have to carry that sign. So that would be the reciprocal. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve for x. Now, in this example, when you're solving for x, again, you ask yourself the same question. What is happening to the x? It's being multiplied by -4/5. So this is being multiplied by -4/5. So to get the variable by itself, you always do the opposite inverse operation. Opposite of multiply is divide. Okay, so if you were to divide, it looks like you're going to divide a fraction by a fraction. As we recall in our previous chapters, you cannot divide a fraction with a fraction. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply by its reciprocal. So we're going to take this and multiply it by the reciprocal. So let me go ahead and rewrite the problem. We have -4 over 5, x equals -8. So what's the reciprocal of -4 over 5? Remember we said over here it was 5 over 4 negative. Let me put that negative right there. Now, that's a parentheses. So if we do that to this side, multiply it, we have to do it to the other side. Remember, what you do to one side, you do to the other side. This cancels because -5 times -4 is -20. 4 times 5 is 20. What's 20 over 20? Isn't that just going to be 1? Do you need that 1x? Nope. So we don't need to have that 1 there. So we're just going to go ahead and cancel this right here. Cancel this, and x equals, well, what's a -8 times a -5? Let me fix my 8. What's a -8 times a -5? That's going to be positive 40. Invisible 1 at the bottom. What's 1 times 4? 1 times 4 is 4. So now you have 40 over 4. Can you simplify this? Yes, you can. So 40 over 4 equals going to be 10. So your answer is 10. Okay. Now if you want to check again the solution, you can always go over here and check it. So you can say -4/5 x equals -8. So if I have -8 on this side should also be -8. Let's see. Well, it's -4/5 times, what was x? 10. So 10 over invisible 1. What is -4 times 10? That's -40. What is 5 times 1? That's 5. And then -40 divided by 5 is -8. So these two answers equal each other. So the answer to this was correct. So check. So there is your solution. Okay, so that was solving an equation using the reciprocal by reversing the fraction. So let's go ahead and have you do on your own problems 4 through 5, or 4, 5, and 6 on the same homework paper you just took out. Okay? All right. Example 3, our last example, a real life application. So it says here, the record low temperature in Arizona is 1.6 times the record low temperature in Rhode Island. What is the low temperature in Rhode Island? So again, whenever I'm solving a story problem, I like to underline what it is that they're asking me. It seems like they want to know what is the record low temperature for the state of Rhode Island. We already know Arizona is 1.6 times the record low. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down what I know. So I wrote down the information that they gave me above. The record low for Arizona is 1.6 times the record low in Rhode Island. So now that I know that, what I did is I went ahead and highlighted the information so that will help me to set up my equation. So the record low for Arizona is 1.6 times the record low in Rhode Island. You might not see this, but this is actually the equation already. So we're going to take the information in the sentence and we're going to write the equation. So we can let T be the record low in Rhode Island. So the equation could be, let's see, the record low in Arizona. Do you know the record low? It was how much? Let's see, the record low in Arizona was going to be I'm sorry. The record low in Arizona is going to be, we don't know. Do we know that? Let me just take a look really quick. 1 second. Da, 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 da. Do we know that record low? Oh, I'm missing it. The record low is right here. I didn't see that, but the record low is right there. Sorry about that, boys and girls. I was just looking over it. So it's right there. So the record low is -40 degrees, okay? What does is mean in math? Is means equals, so input equals 1.6 times, what's the record low in Rhode Island? Do we know? Is that what we're looking for? Yes. So it says let T be the record low. So we can put T here. So now it looks like we're going to solve for T to find the temperature for Rhode Island. Again, using this sentence here, I created an equation. So now we're going to go ahead and solve the equation. And so how do I get t by itself? What's happening to the t? It's being multiplied. Opposite of multiply is divide. What do I divide? 1.6. If I do it to this side, I do it to the other side. This cancels, and t is by itself over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 40, and we're going to divide it by 1.6. So 40 divided by 1.6 over here. Okay, move the decimal once, and then move the decimal once. Invisible 0 here. So what's my final answer going to be? My final answer is going to be 25. Oops, sorry. 20. Oh, it's not working. 25. Let me try that again. It's going to be 25, and then since we're dividing a negative by a positive, it's going to be a negative answer. So the answer is negative 25 for the temperature of Rhode Island. Okay? All right. Let's go ahead and have you finish the rest of your homework by completing number 7. Go ahead and pause the video, solve the problems, and write down your answer. Okay, our exit ticket to complete this lesson. Please answer the question below by writing out by writing out the solution. It says to describe how to solve for x in this equation. So go ahead and complete that as part of your homework, and then we will go ahead and talk about this tomorrow. Okay, see you tomorrow.